am weak, but thou art strong. Jesus, keep me from all wrong. I'll be satisfied as long as I walk, dear Lord, close to thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Through this world of toil and snares, if I falter, Lord, who cares? Who with me my burden shares? None but thee, dear Lord, none but thee. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. When my feeble life is o'er, time for me will be no more. Guide me gently, safely o'er to thy kingdom, dear Lord, to thy shore. Just a closer walk with thee. Granted, Jesus is my plea. Daily walking close to thee. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. Let it be, dear Lord, let it be. I love that song. Here's another one I love. I don't write songs like they used to. You know, when I was a kid, they didn't sing Amazing Grace, Grace Amazing, Amazing Grace, Amazing Mace, and then have like a amen, 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 amen little chorus thing in the middle. No, we had the same tune for every verse, and we sang none of this fancy schmancy mushy stuff. We were wretches, and we knew we were wretches, and the piano player knew how to sing. So, anyhow, how do you become a channel member? If you are on a computer or laptop or whatever, you can, there's a little thing that says become a member, support this channel, and you can become a member. So thank you very much for the super chat, Haley, much appreciated. The membership thing is a way to support the channel, and it is also what I can do is I can do posts for members, and I can actually do streams that are just for members, and I can answer questions and that sort of thing. And I kind of, you know, because I appreciate knowing that I have this revenue that's not tied to all the ads and stuff, it's kind of a nice base. You know we have 92 members right now, which is really cool, and it's just growing, and I have this regular base of support, and in return what I try to do is provide free downloads of longer videos and things that I've done in the past, and music, and I mean, when my last book came out, I sent it past all the members first, Because if you actually care enough to pay $5 a month to join and support the channel, then I figure those are the folks that I will just send out my book to and let them read it. So everybody that was a member got to read Florida Survival Gardening before it came out, and then we talked about the book, and I made some changes according to what people had. So anyhow, that doesn't mean that if you're a member you can't enjoy tonight's stream. It just means that the commenting is off for members, because it will mean less distractions. And I have a lot of stuff I want to run through this evening that is pretty cool. I am so psyched up because I just got back from a friend's garden and I filmed a video over there. And she has a very similar approach to gardening that I do. As a matter of fact, she had been reading my books and seeing my videos before we met. And then I happened to move to the area and she got introduced to me. And she's like, aha, you have to see what I'm doing. So I got to go over and see what she was doing, which is really cool. And not only that, she's been doing experiments in the soil here, which are working, and she's figured out what doesn't work already. So she's done a lot of groundwork. She's grown a lot of different plants, and she's experimenting constantly, and she's just full of energy. And she also believes in healthy eating and in fermenting her own food. She gave us a kombucha mother that we're making our own kombucha now again. Just you know, she and her husband and her kids they're our kind of people. It's really cool. So hey, welcome, Haley, new member. You found it. Welcome. Now you can put machetes into the chat. You get the machete emoji, which is obviously that's obviously worth it. So what I wanted to run through tonight, gardening like a boss with patented D2ThaG methods. Now, I'm being facetious. I firmly believe, along with the wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon, along with King Solomon, that there is nothing new under the sun. And unlike some people who jump onto YouTube and want to do their own thing, and every new thing that they're currently doing is like this thing that I came up with, or they're trying this great amazing thing, and look at this amazing thing I'm doing, you could do this too, but they don't give any credit to the people before them. I am keenly aware of the fact that I am no genius, that I am standing on the shoulders of other people. Conversations I've had with gardeners, both famous and not famous, books that I have read by gardeners, famous and not famous, and even books on philosophy and economics and other things. All these things have influenced the way I garden. My ancestry has influenced the way that I garden. Where I grew up has influenced the way that I garden. So, you know, I am very quick to give credit to people that have come before, who have been mentors to me, who have influenced me over the years. And if I can, you know, say a nice thing about them, I will. Somebody, you know, some years ago, Justin Rhodes told me, you know, really, you could push your YouTube channel. Look, if you do a video every day for 30 days, I will give you a plug on my channel. It's like, okay, but I had already been talking back and forth with Justin before. We were part of a little group, me and him and a couple of other sharp gardener guys. Probably none of us as sharp as Justin, but we had been talking together online and trading ideas and homesteading ideas and business ideas and other things. Justin broke out on his YouTube channel, became incredibly successful, and then he did his farm tour and all that kind of stuff. And you know, people are like, well, I don't like that Justin does this thing with his cows, and I don't like that you know, it's not safe, and he killed those sheep because he didn't blah blah blah. I had somebody write me and say, I can't support you because you're friends with that guy, Justin. all of us homesteaders have decided we don't like that Justin did fill in the blank. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. Justin supported me. Justin gave me cool ideas. Justin had great success on YouTube and was not afraid to share it with me when I was a nobody on YouTube. I was already a successful garden writer. But, you know, I think it's really, really important to say I got these ideas. So when I'm saying, that's all just to say, when I say patented D2ThaG methods, I am joking. This is me being facetious. I also want to say welcome to Jeff, new member. Glad to have you here. Jeff Shimon. Jeff has been around for quite a while. I actually thought you were a member already, so welcome. The Roaring Behemoth is here. So, you know, if I am talking about something, trust me, somebody has done it before. I thought the fetid swamp water idea was just a synthesis of various ideas that I had gotten from other people, and I had made it into a new and cool thing. And then after doing it for like 6 or 7 years, somebody said, hey, the Koreans have already been doing this. I was like, oh, they have? Tell me about this thing. Oh, you got to read the Korean natural farming book. So what did I do? I bought it, and I read it, and watched a bunch of videos, some of which were in Korean, and I learned there's nothing new under the sun, yet again. So when we're going through this, these are principles and things that I have discovered that really do work. There's wishy-washy stuff. There's stuff like, you know, bury such and such in your garden and you won't believe, you know, how it does this. Or if you point your microwave out the window while you're playing classical music, you can get the biggest tomatoes ever or whatever. I'm not interested in that stuff. You know, go ahead and try it, and if it works, I'll be amazed. And I don't really like gimmicky stuff. I want to do stuff cheaply, and I want people to be able to simply grow their own food, and I want to do tried and tested stuff. And I want to make sure that we give credit to the people that came before us. So if I'm talking about deep mulching, I'm mentioning Root Stout, Paul Gauci. I may mention Jeff Lawton's Chop and Drop. I'll mention Patricia Lanza's Lasagna Gardening book, which popularized it for another generation. So it's Root Stout, Patricia Lanza, and then Paul Gauci. And these things are valuable to point out, because then you could go back and say, oh, I heard of this idea from David the Good, but now I'm going to add these books to my library. I'm going to watch this movie. I'm going to follow this guy. And that's cool. And we all learn better off of that stuff. So anyhow, all that to say, I am going to jump into the theme. So deep mulch is where we will start. Deep mulch. Wait a minute. I wish I had like a synthesizer, because it would be better for this. Deep mulch. The place where the soil meets the road. An interconnected web of mycorrhiza, decay, humus, insects, roots, fungi, which are part of mycorrhiza, and other things, creating soil, the way a forest creates soil. Deep mulch. I don't hate deep mulch. I love deep mulch. I never said anything about deep mulch. Never said anything bad about deep mulch in my entire life. I don't like deep mulch in most of my annual gardens. But deep mulching on bad soil turns it into amazing soil. And I just was over at my friend's house and filmed a video, which is going to take me forever to edit because I took so much footage. And if you starting and you want to do a small space and you want to build the soil up like nothing else, deep mulch that area with a wide variety of materials and just go with it. But I will also tell you, on the other side of things, when you reach into the deep mulch toolkit, don't be like, I will never break the soil again. I breaking the soil interrupts the soil life in the soil, and it destroys cultures. And the cultures that get destroyed, they're not gonna be benefiting your plants. And we have to think about it as an interrelationship, like all people together, and diversity is our strength, and that those interrelationships. No, don't be afraid to go, hey, this deep mulch thing is not working as well as it should right now. Or I need to garden right now and I need to get space in. I'm going to do it. That's where you don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go, okay, now I'm going to broad fork, or now I'm going to till, because the different toolkits for different situations. And if you know what each toolkit does and what can be done with it and how to work, you'll see it in this video that's coming up. I'm so psyched about it. It's gonna be really cool. Because I actually got my friend to go ahead and like voice the whole thing. She didn't want to be on camera, but I did film her feet. Not in a creepy way. Perfectly normal filming a woman's feet way. And she's explaining how she transformed this really, really awful dirt into some rich humus, but what went wrong in the deep mulch system, and it's really good. So right there's a couple of things. Garden like a boss, know how to deep mulch, know how to fork or broad fork or dig, and know how to use both of them appropriately, because there's a time and place for everything. And the other thing I wanted to jump to, since we're talking about the Korean natural farming, one of those other like a boss methods is just making the fetid swamp water. Now, you can do this. It's so funny that somehow the people that make compost tea and the people that were writing about making comfrey tea or manure tea never seem to kind of put the two ideas together. And a lot of it was not concerned with micronutrients. Some of them are concerned with, the bacteria, and some of them are concerned with micronutrients, but it's like never the twain shall meet. Somehow anaerobic is really bad if you let your compost tea go anaerobic. Oh my gosh, don't do that. It smells bad and it gets dangerous and bad, and really bad. Really dangerous bad, horrible bad, awful bad, stinky bad. But they don't, don't turn around and be like, oh yeah, you can use manure tea on your garden, or you can just let comfrey rot down in the water your gardens with it. It works. Or you go buy swamp muck, put it on your garden. People did that in South Florida all the time, buy muck from the Everglades. Why is that muck good? It's great. It's full of organic matter. It's good stuff. The fetid swamp water thing is a way to take, what I'm saying is just forget the bacteria component of it, gather the widest range of materials possible, and just make it into a thing. And it's such a cheap way to fertilize. Big barrel. Throw in what you have. Throw in grasses. Throw in some chicken manure. Throw in some Epsom salt. You can pour urine in it. You can put fish emulsion in it. I've dumped fish emulsion into them. This batch, I have some rotten shrimp that had spoiled. There were some storms and things. And I've got some shrimp shells that I threw in there. And I've also got some kelp meal that I threw in there to rot down. And I've got a little bit of, I put some brine from our fermenting in there to kind of make it all be alive, Yeah, Karen says, sounds like the kids are having fun. I actually have a friend over, and they have 6 children. And those 6 children are playing with my 9 children. But I had said that I was going to do this thing tonight, and I did not realize that we were going to have them all over, so that's what's going on. There is a party going on in the next room, and as soon as I leave, I am making martinis for the adults, not for the kids. So the Dave's Fetid Swamp Water thing, that's a way to just spread fertility all over the place. That is an easy way. So it's a gardening method that I found that worked. It didn't cost anything. I'm not trying to get you to buy Dave's Fetid Swamp Water in gallons, though I could probably sell it. It would be kind of funny. Jeff says, those are the fascists who just don't want me urinating in my quote-unquote yard. It's funny. And here's another principle that will allow you to garden like a boss. And now, today I was working yet again, on Create Your Own Florida Food Forest, the revised, expanded, and illustrated edition, the new second edition of it. And I was talking about how I used to be like, I only want to plant food things in my yard. I only want to plant food. I only want to plant these foods. Anything that's not a food plant is a waste of space. But over time I realized that's not the case. I found that, even the hollies that were at the edge of my yard, I thought they're just a little bit of a barrier there. I could replace them with blackberries. The hollies bloomed in February, and they were so loaded with bees. It was an immense amount of bees. And I was like, what? I thought these things were useless. No, they weren't useless. And I didn't put in enough nitrogen fixers when I planted my first Florida food forest 10 years ago. I did not have the biomass. I did not get that mulch forest floor layer going at the beginning, and I blew it. It took me like 2 years to catch up, and then I had to go and dump a whole bunch of mulch. If I had just simply, like stuff didn't want to grow. The ground was terrible. Stuff didn't want to grow. I'm watering it and going, why don't you grow? Throwing compost on it. Please grow. And then I ended up deep mulching it, planting tons of support species, and chopping and dropping and chopping and dropping and chopping and dropping. And suddenly it turned into a forest floor, and most of my problems simply evaporated just because I now had the support species around them that I could speed up that process of building soil. And the support species, as I grew in this, I started planting all kinds of like weird little small fruits and things that we might eat, but the birds might eat. I put plants in that would bring in lots of pollinators. So if it had lots of blooms, that was great. If it bloomed, the more it bloomed, the better, because it would keep bringing in the pollinators and feeding the bees and keeping the bees around when my fruit trees went into bloom. The amount of predatory species went up and up and up when I planted lots of long-term perennials, short shrubby stuff, blooming stuff, lots of places for them to hide. Just the pest issues and everything go away. If you could see my food forest in North Florida right now, it's ridiculous. There's so much food in there, and there's so much life in there. It's just this amazing, rambling, crazy system. Planting that huge abundance of species and mixing it all up lets you head off a lot of issues. And that's just one of those invaluable things I learned over the years. Stop planting these little monoculture things. Stop planting, just rows of this and rows of that. Make sure there's a lot of other stuff mixed in. Makes a big, big difference. Another timeless truth. Experiment constantly, because your yard is not going to match up with anybody else's yard. Your experiences every year, stacked on top of each other year to year to year, become a cumulative amount of knowledge that allows you to simply improve constantly. So let me show you something. I'm going to see if I could find this. I did something. Let's see if I can find it here. I did a little painting last night. There we go. There's my little painting. Now, I had somebody tell me I'm part of a little group, and somebody in the group said, that just looks like magic to me, that you can paint something like that. To me, I realize that it's an okay painting. It's decent. I captured the subject. Colors are pretty close. Things are pretty decent. Pretty happy with it. Composition's not bad. It's a decent little painting. But I'm looking at people like Burgereau and going, Burgereau, oh my goodness. Looking at even somebody like Gauguin. I like Gauguin's paintings, some of them. Looking at Cezanne. The pre-Raphaelites. I mean, wow. I can do a painting quite decently. I am a good artist. But the reason that I'm a good artist is because I made a lot of bad paintings first. The painting behind me on the wall, that's my painting. The one that keeps getting in the middle of my head. It's one of my paintings. you get better over time. Anders Zorn is amazing. I tried using his palette though, and it looked like I I tried to do a landscape painting with it. It was terrible. Probably if I was painting a portrait, it would have been better. But it looks like magic when you go out to your garden and you simply know how it works, and you plant your beets and you plant this and you plant this and you have a reasonable expectation of things working. But it's your cumulative knowledge over time that has made that happen. And it is the practice, it is the going out and doing it that is. It's not magic. There's no such thing as having a black thumb where you're going to, you're just killing everything. That is an excuse. That is an excuse. Because what you have to do is you have to go out there and do it. And you have to do a bit. And you have to fail. And you have to fail and then try something else. Or try the same thing again in a different way until you get it right. I was teaching my kids how to paint last night, and one of my sons was like, it's just frustrating when I look at your painting and then look at my painting. And I'm like, you're 10 years old. I wasn't painting at 10. I didn't really start to get serious about painting until I was 15. I'm still not as good at painting as I could be if I had done it regularly. If I had continuously painted instead of gone off and started a writing career, I could be a great painter right now. I used to do shows in Nashville in the mid-2000s, 2004. I had a couple of shows there. I had a show at a library in Fort Lauderdale area, 2005. If I had continued doing shows and continued working at it, I would be awesome right now. Instead, I had a family, and I poured myself more into gardening, and then I poured myself into doing the garden writing and writing about my experiences. And as I went along, I ended up first writing blogs, and then writing articles, and then writing books, and then launching a YouTube channel. It's where you focus and you keep going. If you want to be an amazing gardener, experiment constantly, but at the same time, just keep going. Which leads me to my next point, which is work a little bit on your garden every day if possible. If you go out and you just keep doing stuff, like, okay, I got this little peace lily behind me, right? If I want more peace lilies, I could take this peace lily right now, and I could divide it up and make 4 or 5 peace lilies out of this one peace lily. But I would have to do it. I could just let it sit there and get root bound and talk, one day I'm going to get around to that. Or I could just it's literally like 10 minutes work to make 4 peace lilies. And it might be 10 minutes work to go weed 1 row in your garden, or weed 1, 4x4 space. Grab those weeds and pull them up by the fistfuls and throw them aside. You don't have to do all the work today. You don't have to do everything today. Work in your garden a little bit every day if possible. It's amazing what you can do in 10 minutes. There is a song that I play when I want to clean my office, and it is almost exactly 10 minutes long. And it's called Remember by Deadmau5 and Cascade, the 10-minute mix. And then you start cleaning, and in 10 minutes you find out that you've cleaned your office. Or you get close to it. But you get a big chunk of it done. The procrastination is actually, you spend most of your time procrastinating and not gardening and not getting better. And then, my garden's just such a mess. It's all so terrible out there. I don't even want to bring people over to look at it. I'm a terrible gardener. I'm actually a black thumb. Don't do that. Just keep doing it. Look at this is truth. This is the way you do it, one bit at a time. So experiment constantly and work a little bit on your garden every day if possible. Make yourself go outside and do it. And it will get done. It's same way I tell people to write a book. You write it by making yourself do a certain amount of words every day until it's over. It's not a big deal. You can do it. But you can also head off a lot of issues in your garden by growing what grows well in your climate. This is another pro tip. And I learned this one originally from Toby Hemingway, who wrote Gaia's Garden. He said, go and see what the local species are that thrive in your area, and then see what their cousins are and what cultivated versions of them might do. So you got hickories growing wild. You probably could get away with planting pecans in your yard. If you've got wild blueberries, you're probably in a good space for cultivated blueberries, more attractive, better varieties. Same thing with blackberries. If you've got various trees of such and such a species in a genus, maybe there's something else in that genus that's going to do really well in your area. So figure out what the plant relationships are that are already there, that have self-seeded and grown, and what the natural environment is, and then plan gardens that are based on that. If you're in an area that's all prairie and you want to plant a food forest, it's probably not ideal for it. You're probably better off with annual gardens. If you're in an area that just wants to turn back to forests, like South Florida, if you tear the soil up there, you get this nasty, patchy, horrible sand. You're better off planting a forest there and letting the forest work. It wants to be a forest. Just look at what it looks like if you leave it alone. There's a neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale called the Riverland neighborhood, and that's where I grew up. And you go back through parts of the Riverland neighborhood, it is gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Old trees and vines and all kinds of ornamentals from all around the world that have gone wild and just invaded all the lots. Any place where people haven't done stuff, it's just loaded with trees. But the areas where the grass is being cut and they're trying to maintain a lawn, a lot of those lawns are pretty patchy looking, weedy looking. They take a lot of effort. And that's because the area wants to be a forest, so make it into a forest. You fight the climate, your gardening does not do as well. South Florida is a great place for food forests. Parts of the prairie probably are not. Another thing that will help you in your garden, compost everything. Compost everything. When you get those Halloween pumpkins left over, throw them into your compost pile. Throw them around your fruit trees. You might end up getting volunteer pumpkins the next season. You probably will. Gather all the leftover material from your church picnic. Have them do a special trash can just for the paper plates and the food scraps afterwards. Take them home and compost them, or feed them to your chickens, and then let the chickens make it into manure, and then use the manure in the garden. Use all your coffee grounds. Stop throwing stuff in the trash, for goodness sakes. Don't throw it away and then go and buy fertility for the garden. It doesn't make sense. So composting everything, this idea of, I could use that. That's potential soil fertility. I'm going to hold on to it. Do it. Compost everything. That's gardening like a boss right there. Fall. The leaves are everywhere. Use those leaves for next year's soil fertility, Use the leaves all over the place. Make big piles of them to get the leaf mold breaking down. Put them in your compost piles. Rake them up and use them for sheet mulching, food forests, all that kind of stuff, Scott says, I just gathered up some neighborhood pumpkins out on the curb for trash day, compost fodder. Absolutely. And those pumpkins are mostly green material, Good work. So the next thing I want to say here, after composting everything, it should be obvious I want you to compost everything. I wrote a book called Compost Everything, The Good Guide to Extreme Composting. Divide your gardening efforts between perennials and annuals and reap the best of both. I swung back and forth. My early years of gardening were annual gardening, and I didn't really get into perennial gardening because I didn't have the patience. I didn't really have the patience to start trees, and I thought they took too long. Stupid me. When I was 15 in gardening, I planted one tree. I planted a coconut, and the coconut tree is now towering over my parents' backyard and bearing tons and tons of coconut. It's borne literal tons of coconuts over the years. What? Why did I not plant more? That was years ago. Let me think. 25 years ago? What could have happened in 25 years if I had planted a food forest when I was a teenager? Holy moly, it would be a landmark. It would be a national historic site. I was not thinking ahead. I was thinking like a typical young man, going, "Oh, I don't have time for this." I'm thinking I'm gonna garden. I'm gonna plant radishes and lettuces and cucumbers. And I mean, I was gardening. Most young people weren't gardening, but if I had been really planting back then, holy moly, I wish. So, hey Scott, God bless, man. It's good to see you. If you take advantage of the fact that those trees are going to grow and grow and grow, put those trees out there and let them run right now. Whether you're renting, whether you're young, whether you're old, just plant them. Plant all the trees you can and let those perennials come in for a future that we don't know anything about. I missed out on the perennial side of things. And so later when I hit my 20s, I started to swing all the way to the other side and saying, food forests are really the best system ever. Annual gardening is way overrated. We should be all building food forests, and they should be surrounding our houses, and we should live in food forests. And if we had food forests, we get way more food and it's way less work. Except it's not. It's less work, but I'm really not convinced that it's way more food. For example, I talked to the lady friend of mine a lady friend of mine over at the Chestnut Hill Tree Farm. I said lady friend. I was talking to my lady friend over at Chestnut Hill Tree Farm, where they have beautiful trees and beautiful ladies. And at Chestnut Hill Tree Farm, they have this orchard of Dunstan chestnuts, which I think were planted in the 80s. And, thank you very much, Karen. Much appreciated. Good night. Glad to have you here. Chestnut Hill Tree Farm. And so I called and I said, okay, what would a mature chestnut tree bear? So basically she was saying, I think it was after like 25 years, they come up to about 50 pounds a year in chestnuts. And after about 10, 15 years, you could expect 25 pounds a year of chestnuts. Okay, this is a tree that takes up a space of about 20 foot by 20 foot, so about 400 square feet. How many pounds of potatoes do you think you could plant in 400 square feet? What's the yield on that? What about yams? African yams, right? Like yams that can reach 20 pounds. What if you planted one of those every 4 feet through that entire space? Holy moly. Your yields of just a few of those yams beat the yields of a mature chestnut tree like crazy. Crazy. So, I don't know. There's much less work that goes into doing the perennial thing. And perhaps, a chestnut tree is not the best on yields. An apple tree might give you a couple 100 pounds, but still, you can get a couple 100 pounds of sweet potatoes in that space easy, and you can do it. You could do that, and then you could plant another crop, and you could plant another crop, depending on your season, your seasons. If you were in the tropics, things kind of shift a little bit because you could plant a jackfruit tree, and a jackfruit tree will give you like 1,000 pounds a year, that kind of thing. But we're talking like normal situation. Your peach tree is probably going to give you 50, 100 pounds of peaches if it's really happy and you do a good job taking care of it, and you spray it, and you fertilize it, and you net it so the squirrels don't steal it. But if you planted a couple of pumpkin vines, you can get the same thing. Of course, they're not peaches, So there are benefits and advantages to knowing how to do annual gardening well and reaping quick harvests. If you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like the economy is going to collapse, I think I'll plant apples. Probably by the time the apples are actually bearing much of anything, the economic crisis will be long gone. So you're better off planting potatoes, cabbages, sweet potatoes. The advantages of the annuals versus perennials are that really quick turnaround and quick yields. I mean, I'm blown away by some of the yields on our pumpkins and stuff. Oh my gosh, 48 pounds of pumpkins. That was one plant, and with like 4 good pumpkins, nice solid pumpkins. 48 pounds. 48 pounds of food in 120 days. Like one seed, you know. I mean, come on. So there's a time to say, okay, annuals. And there's a time to say, perennials. I don't have to work at that. If I put pear trees and apple trees and blueberries and these kinds of things around my yard, I could be old and picking those fruits and not working at that thing anymore. I'm not digging. I'm not harvesting. I'm not sowing. You know, you divide your gardening efforts between perennials and annuals. Plant perennials every single year when you plant annuals, and it's a big benefit. You're getting the best of both worlds, but don't get so stuck on, hey, I don't like my fruit trees. Jeff Lawton, he loves the food forest systems, and if you watched, Creative Food Forest, the Permaculture Way, you would think that food forests were basically the answer to everything. Now, Jeff doesn't say that, but you could very easily get so totally zealous for the food forest system and miss that you could be growing, crops right now in your backyard very well by following the advice of somebody like Steve Solomon, who is on the other end of the spectrum. Steve Solomon is a vegetable gardener. Steve Solomon doesn't even really like fruit trees that much. I mean, we've talked about fruit trees, but he's like, who needs that many apples? Except for you, David, because you have 1 million children, right? But you can glean and take from both the perennials and the annuals. Man, if you have a hedgerow system and you've got hazelnuts and you've got blueberries and you've got blackberries and you've got mulberries and you've just planted these hedgerows around the edges of your garden, this is so stinking exciting. And then inside, you've got all your annual crops. You got your quick yields, fast turnaround. You can eat fresh vegetables every day, fresh herbs and all that stuff. And then on the outside, you've got the stuff that you really don't have to work that hard at. You just go pluck the hazelnuts and the blackberries when they come in. I love that stuff. But don't shut yourself out of a system. Just like I say, use broad forking when you need to, or tilling when you need to, or a tractor, whatever. I don't care. I'm not like a purist on it. They're always telling us, you got to be really careful, like if you leave a sandwich in your car, because you leave that sandwich in your car, and the those bacterias, like every 20 minutes they double in population. They will double in population. So you could basically be eating like a bacteria bomb. You don't eat that tuna mayo sandwich that you left in the back of your car. The thing's going to kill you. So what do you think about tilling your gardens? Tilling your gardens? Are you kidding? Tilling your gardens destroys the bacteria in the soil. It destroys those precious relationships that are there, and you can't get that back, at least not easily. Can't you get it back in like 60 minutes? So there's something, don't worry so much. There's a time to mulch and a time to fork, a time to pluck and a time to plant, and a time to quote stupid boomer songs that are quoting the Holy Scriptures. All right. So this, in summary, at 44 minutes and 02 seconds, my summary list of gardening like a boss, for those of you who missed the first bit of it. Deep mulch when needed. Broad fork when needed. Fork or dig when you need to. Mulch when you need to. Use both in your toolkit. Make Dave's Fetid Swamp Water. Don't be afraid to make swamp water. Make compost tea. Stretch the fertility as far as you can. Go for the widest range of mineral nutrients that you can possibly get and put them together. Next, plant a huge abundance of species. And don't forget your support species. Your pollinator attractor plants. The plants that are going to confuse other things. Put some really confusing plants out there. That's good. Those nitrogen fixtures, the nutrient accumulators, the comfrey, the Tithonia diversifolia, Enterolobium cyclocarpum, black locust. These things are so useful. Experiment constantly. Don't be afraid to fail. Go ahead and fail. I'm always doing this. Don't worry about failing. Failing doesn't matter. Just fail and then pick yourself up and do the next thing. We all fail, for goodness sakes. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about looking stupid. We all look stupid. We are all foolish. I am the dorkiest dresser in the world, and I know it. I'm trying to do better. But I can't. I can't keep up to Scott Head's level of fashion. And I don't have Callie Kim's figure. What am I going to do? I'm going to keep gardening, and I'm not going to worry about it. Work a little bit on your garden every day if possible. Don't be afraid to, don't get overwhelmed is what I should say. Don't get overwhelmed and be like, there's so much to do. I can't do it. Yes, you can. Just do a little bit right now. Do a little bit when you can. Do a little bit when you're talking on the phone to somebody. You can weed like this. You can talk on the phone and you can pull weeds with the other hand. I've had some good serious conversations that way, yanking weeds out. Go ahead and grow what grows well in your climate. Do what Toby Hemingway said. Look around, find out what grows, test it, ask other gardeners what they're growing. This is all stuff I've said before, But if you want to garden like a boss, that's how you do it. What grows commercially in your area? What species are already growing in the woods? If your woods are like all wild blueberries and blackberries, you might not want to, plant a peach orchard. They might not like it there. But don't be afraid. Again, experiment constantly. Plant some peaches and see how they do. Figure it out. Compost everything. Don't let fertility sources slip out of your grasp. Use the fall leaves. Use the shredded paper from the office. Throw your old soup into the compost. When you go to the beach, pick up bags of seaweed, throw it in the compost pile. Lots and lots of stuff that can be composted that we're not composting. No, none of you, I hope none of you are throwing organic matter in the trash unless it's like paper towels that you've used to wipe up motor oil. Compost everything. And finally, to compost or to garden like a boss, divide your gardening efforts between the perennials and the annuals. Plant those perennials knowing that they're going to be little work, that you can get some special things from perennials you can't get from annuals, like mulberries and figs or oranges. Those things are awesome. So plant those every year when you're planting your annuals in, but don't be like, oh, my food forest is going to be the only thing. Use both. And you can grow annuals in a food forest too. Get an interrelationship between perennials and annuals, just as God created the earth. There's a swath of forest. An area gets cleared. A whole bunch of annuals pop up. Take advantage of both. Take advantage of the sunny open areas for your annuals. Make the woods around them. You can reap the best of both. You can reap the long-term stuff that takes less work over time. Great big old beautiful fruit trees. That's awesome. You want to be doing that. But you also don't want to be, only doing that. And you don't want to be so short-sighted that you're like, I don't have time to plant anything other than beans and radishes. I don't want to wait. It takes like 10 years for it to make a fruit. Just plant it. Stop making excuses. Even if you think you're going to die tomorrow, just plant another tree. Plant it for somebody else. So, that is what I wanted to share this evening. And as you can see this evening, we have the members only chat on just to keep things less distracting. And plus, I feel like you members support me so much. Having the regular support from the members is really important. And I appreciate you guys. So I wanted to open it up so just you guys could talk tonight. We don't get derailed. And we have 94 members now. We had 92 members at the beginning of the stream. Now we have 94 members, which is really cool. So Haley G is a new member, and Jeff Shimon is a new member. So welcome Haley and welcome Jeff. Thank you for the support. And this is one of the things I want to try and do regularly now that I have a full, decent internet setup after years. So let me answer Jeffrey Baker's super chat here. I'm not going to miss this. I'm going to answer the super chats first. So Haley got her super chat answered, and she is now a member. Thank you very much. And Jeffrey is the next one. Thoughts, advice on water wick raised beds. Thanks and good night. Thanks, Engine. Thanks, Engine. I saw my friend Mart Hale. Mart is a very intelligent guy, and a really solid guy, a solid gentleman, like the kind of guy that he shows up at the house and he brings me a couple of plants and then he's like, I brought some fruit for your kids because I figure your kids eat healthy stuff. So I stopped by and I picked up a variety of things, you know. Like he goes way out of his way just to do like simple, kind things. But anyhow, Mart had a wicking bed system that was doing very well for him. I have not built a wicking bed, but he had a big tank on the side of the house to capture rainwater, and then he built up over this pipe went down into the ground, and he had a rubber liner in it, and the bottom of it was all stuffed with organic matter, and then he built the bed up over the top of it so it would drain at the level of the pond liner, and there was this fresh water that ran down the center of it, so it had this pool effect going on. But then he had mounded it up so the roots were not rotten. And we pulled some massive yacon roots out of there, and it worked very well. But I have not built a system like that. The closest I've gotten is burying chunks of wood to rot down and act as a reservoir for the future. And another friend of mine buried a phone book and planted over the top of it. In this soaked, wet phone book, he had much better success with the plants planted over a soaked phone book than the ones that weren't. So I really do think there's something to the wicking raised beds, but I have not built them as such. Scott Head sends a $5 super chat and says, tip jar for the Pink Floyd. I missed a while back. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And Karen sends a $9.99 super chat and says, sorry, I've got to run too. Good night, D2ThaG and gang. Thank you. Dana says, thank you for the members only chat. You are very welcome. It's the cowboy hat, Lauren says. Yeah, you're right. He's in Texas. I wonder if I'm a poser if I'm in Alabama and I wear a cowboy hat. I love cowboy hats. I have a straw hat. Highly fashionable. Is this better? I have one of these shirts with the buttons in the front. It's a little classier than usual. Dude, it's Amy says, just off the top of the old noggin, can you name a handful of vegetables that are great for growing, then letting dry for soups and such? Can you let them dry on the plant or only after you've harvested? Okay. Just off the top of the noggin, can you name a handful of vegetables that are great for growing, then letting dry for soups and such? Can you let them dry on the plant or only after you've harvested the plant on which they are? One time I dried some okra. They were still slimy when rehydrated. Another time I dried I can't think of something else that I dried at all. No, I'm just kidding. One of my very favorite things to dry is the cayenne pepper. And then I like to put it through an espresso grinder and make it into my very own red pepper. Dried red pepper in a powdery form, and it's so sweet and it's so smoky. It can't be beat. Pretty much everything can go into a dehydrator. Pretty much every vegetable can be eaten later, but probably the best would be cayennes. And I'm also fond of moringa, but I would use a dehydrator. Harvesting, letting them go on the plant often wears them out. They're not very good. I like it's mold issues, or just when you think you've got it perfect, it rains, it's horrible. I don't like it. Dana says, yeah, I have my annual veggie gardens in my front yard and my own fruit forest on the lot next door. That's excellent. I love that. Now, my veggie gardens, I have consistently now for the past 2 properties, now 3 properties, I plant a patch of annual gardens in the backyard with a front yard food forest. I like the front yard food forest for privacy and that sort of thing. But I think front yard gardens are kind of awesome too. Lauren says, I just bought my first broad fork. It's awesome. If it's a meadow creature, please tell them David the Good recommended them. They used to sponsor my website years ago, but then I liked them so much I haven't asked them to pay anything. So I just advertise for them for free because I think it's the best thing ever. I'm not good at this, am I? Lorna, thank you very much. Lorna Chassel. Lorna Chassel. Lana Chassel sends a $15 super chat. Thank you very much. And says, learned a lot on this channel. I am very glad. If you haven't seen it, go to my website, thesurvivalgardener.com today and look at the pictures of David's garden. David wrote me and said, I was asking me a question about yams, and he said, oh, by the way, because of you, I've grown this and this and this and this. And I said, would you send me pictures? So he not only sent me pictures, he wrote about what he's growing and how he's growing it. It's gorgeous, and it's not very old, and it's already quite productive. Just Keep Planning with Nemo sends a $9.99 super chat and says, just got a few paychecks, spreading the love. Thank you very much. And says, just helped someone plan a food forest today, sending them your way. Good work. Well, I'm happy to help however I can, but hey, you're doing great helping them plan. Good work. That's good work. That's what I want. What I want is the knowledge to spread all over the place. Be very, very good. Let's see here. Lorna says, I planted 2 moringa trees this year. Good work. Chassel. Chassel? That's how you say it? I got that right? Yeah. Chassel. Good. Well, thank you very much. I like the name Lorna. Anyhow, I better run. I've got friends here. So I'm going to say goodbye. And I'm not even going to try to cover a nice song at the end. I want to thank all of the members and all the super chats. And this is the end. So have a very, very good night. Thank you all. God bless. Thank you to our members. Thank you to our 2 new members, Jeff and Haley. Oh, Betty, you did check this. You did check it out. Yeah. I post daily over at the Survival Gardener. So if you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have a video to watch and I really wish that I could see that awkward guy in the weird hat again more, well, you can always go over to my website. There's like probably like 3,000 posts there now. Because remember, I'm a writer who ended up with a YouTube channel. So God bless you all. Thank you all the members. This was kind of fun to do it this way. Love to you too. Thank you for that sneaking a super chat in at the end. Much appreciated. That is like 4 packets of seeds. Boom. So it's fun to do this sort of thing with members. I'll try to do this again. Maybe we'll just do this on Mondays. Do a members only thing on Mondays. It would be awesome if the membership hit a level where I didn't even have to worry about ad revenue anymore. You know, that would be cool. Anyhow, also, if you're interested, I have the unauthorized.tv channel, and you can become a member over there, which doesn't support the Google ecosystem at all, but I have not been as good at posting videos over there. There's a lot of exclusive stuff that I've not posted here, but I don't post as regularly as I do on YouTube, just because this is a very simple system, and I'm having a hard time producing enough videos for 2 different systems. Anyhow, God bless you all. Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you for the super chats and everything. And you're very welcome for the members only chat. I appreciate you guys. And I wanted to do something for you. I was like, I really haven't supported the members as much as I should, so we can do this again. We will do this again. Have a great night, everybody. Until next time, may your thumbs always be green.